Wish we could turn back time to the good old days when the mama sang us to sleep, but now we're stressed out. Wish we could turn back time.
7:37 on TSN 690. It's Weekend Game Plan with Matthew Ross. We're here till, let's say 9 o'clock. Yeah, 9 o'clock. I don't know why I said it that way. It is true. 9 o'clock every Saturday and Sunday, 7 to 9 a.m. Brought to you in part by DeadHitSports.com. Dave Trentadue on the board. Still to come, Habs breakfast at 8:05 with Mike Boone of HockeyInsideOut.com and Amanda Stein of TSN 690. Right now, though, time to talk some boxing, little CFL maybe as well with our next guest from La Presse Canadienne. You can follow him at Fred Daigle on Twitter. It's Mr. Fred Daigle, probably cooking pancakes. Now, Fred, do you wear an apron in the morning or?
I don't.
Oh.
I don't. I'm experienced enough so that I don't make a mess everywhere in the kitchen.
Well,
so,
excuse
I'm good to
me.
go.
All right. Well,
it's been years of practice, Matthew. That's why.
Well, I was telling Dave here off air about your ritual with the family, and he wants to come for some pancakes after the show.
Well, you know what? We should organize that. I got to make sure I got enough preparation, but we should take care of that in the following weeks.
Nice. Well, Fred, last night I was at an event in Montreal called Expos Fest, and a lot of great sports celebrities there, and had a chance to chat with Anthony Calvillo, and he seemed like a guy who was maybe relieved to get away from a rough season, learning, but also certainly the losses racked up, and he had to answer some questions from the media there about Jim Pop and the future and all that kind of stuff. But he also seemed like a guy who was determined to get better as a coach and help the team get better. A few weeks ago, we had you on the show before the Alouettes let Jim Pop go, and you were, you thought it wasn't a foregone conclusion that he was going to be back. You thought there would be a chance that he would let go, and it seemed unthinkable at the time, but you saw this coming.
Well, the writing was on the wall since the golf tournament where Andrew Wetinall told us that maybe Jim Pop didn't want to come back next year, and this really ticked me off and gave me a hint that maybe it was in the works, that they were preparing Jim Pop's exit, and it turned out I was right, but that was a long shot hunch, if I could say so, but it really bothered me at the time that Andrew Wetinall would tell us something like that after 21 years of service. And but you know what? I think this is, like I said at the time, I think this is the right timing for this organization. I think this team is ready to move on, and every good thing comes to an end, and the Jim Pop era had to come to an end at some point. If it wouldn't have been this year, maybe next year at the end of his contract, or in 3 years, but at some point, I mean, Jim Pop couldn't be there forever. So I think this is the right timing for this organization.
We're chatting with Fred Daigle from La Presse Canadienne here on TSN 690's Weekend Game Plan with Matthew Ross, Dave Trentadue here as well. And, you've talked in the past on the show openly about how having someone like Jacques Chapdelaine, somebody who can speak French, is a major asset in this market, whether people want to acknowledge it or not, because certainly the Alouettes compete with the Impact, with other forms of entertainment to get people in the stands, particularly in seasons where they are not dominant. Now that Pop is gone, does that same thought apply to the general manager spot here? Does someone like Danny Maciocia, to you, is he worth more in this market because of that skill set to be able to speak French?
You know what? At the general manager spot, maybe it's less of a factor because you don't talk to the guy every day. But it certainly is important to some part of the Alouettes fan base. And sincerely, I think that if Danny Maciocia wants the job is his to take. But I know that Danny is very happy with the Carabins de l'Université de Montréal. But I don't know. Maybe he feels that he done everything he could UDM, and that he wants another shot at being a general manager in the CFL.
But hold on, though, Fred. Hold on, now. This is, if you're Danny Maciocia, you've won a Grey Cup with the Edmonton Eskimos. You've been a coach previously with the Alouettes for somebody from Quebec. But to go to Montreal, University of Montreal, do what he did there, how in the world would he sit back and say, no, I'm good. This is fine. This is great. I'm happy where I am. How could he not? How could he not take this job? You'd have to think if he was sitting somewhere and dreaming up a job, this would have to be one of them, right? I mean, there's no way that he's not interested. He's got to be interested, right?
Yeah, I'm sure he is, but I'm sure he's also thinking about the repercussion on his family and on his entourage. And at some point, you're a family man, Matthew. You know how it is. When we're young, we say, I would take any job anywhere, anytime. But then you grow up and you marry and you have some kids, and then you say, well, is it really the best thing to do for everybody around me? And I think this is where maybe Danny Maciocia has some hesitation about this job, because even though he's in the media coaching and being the general manager, they are directing the program at Université de Montréal. He's not in a tight spotlight. I mean, he's never on a hot seat, or seldomly on a hot seat. Where he would be on a hot seat everywhere, and this is in the discussions he had with the media in the last couple of weeks. This is what came out of it. He's gonna have to think about it, but he's gonna have to think about it with his family. So I think that I think he wants the job. I think he wants to make sure his family wants him to take the job.
Just wrapping up with Fred Daigle from the Presse Canadienne, talking on, we were talking some Alouettes, but I want to squeeze in. There's a big fight happening in Vegas tonight between Kovalev and Ward, two undefeated boxers. A lot of hype around this. Maybe not as much as there should be when you have two guys who fought this long and are both still undefeated. One guy hasn't lost since he was 12 years old. I mean, it's crazy. But you have a different take on this. You apply tonight's results to the Quebec boxing scene. What do you see happening locally as a result of this fight?
Well, Adonis Stevenson at least claims to be wanting to fight Sergey Kovalev since, the last 4 or 5 years since he's champion. He wants Kovalev. It never happened because Kovalev is signed with HBO and Stevenson is signed with Showtime and PBC, Al Heyman's premier boxing champions. At least twice this fight almost came up. It didn't because of TV contracts. Now that Ward is fighting Kovalev, even though, if I'm not mistaken, Ward is also on HBO, but then again, if Ward wants all of the belts, he might have the power to make HBO move on this. But whatever happens, this fight, Kovalev and Ward, you rarely see an international fight having so much impact on Quebec boxing, because Stevenson, who has to fight Eliade Alvarez for the WBC belt in early 2017. And after Beterbiev, who's the most complete boxer in Quebec right now, they're all fighting in the light heavyweight division. And whether or not Ward wants it, he'll have to face one of those guys in the near future if he wants to be a unified champion. So this fight is really interesting for Quebec boxing fans, because you're going to see this guy, either Kovalev again in Montreal or Andre Ward in the near future. And whether it's against Stevenson, against Alvarez, or against Beterbiev, that would make a hell of a fight.
Who do you have winning tonight?
Oh, that's a tough one. But you know what? I doubt that Andre Ward has been hit as hard as Sergey Kovalev hits. And I think that Kovalev will surprise him. I see Kovalev winning by KO in the late rounds, maybe 8 or 9.
Okay, well, we're going to play that clip tomorrow. We'll see if you're right or wrong. No, I'm just bugging you.
Well, I have such a good record with Jim Pop right now. I couldn't make any more predictions.
Fred Daigle on Twitter, if you want to follow him there, from La Presse Canadienne. Thank you so much, Fred, for your time this morning. We'll talk soon. À bientôt.
Thanks to you guys. Merci beaucoup.